So if I get loud, that's not too bad.
So now how's that make it?
You go ahead, Josh. All right, everybody, let's get started. Lesson 1 in the new books. Deborah, the dutiful judge. We'll open in prayer. Brownie, if you don't care. Go ahead.
Dear Father, thank you for letting us come together with you. And thank you for giving us time to worship with you and come together and learn as a congregation. Thank you for all the fathers that are here. It is Father's Day here for us. But most importantly, thank you for creating us and making us, your children first and foremost. As we go through today and the rest of the week, please allow more time for us to come to you and understand what we need to do for you. Give us the patience that we need to act more like you. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, so who had the chance to read this lesson? You're right.
I did.
Anybody else read it?
We did.
Everybody. Who didn't read it? Larry. Hey, look. I did.
We did.
Right? Also, moving forward, we're going to move the extracurricular activities that take place on the steps out to the parking lot. Right? The vacant to the parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
To include myself. Okay? Because I'm guilty of it. But that'll be fixed. But also, full disclosure, Larry, I have relapsed with my energy drinks. I felt like I lied to you if I didn't tell you. But listen here, not as bad as it was.
Yeah.
Right? I think maybe half of one a day, maybe one.
It's
But-
36.
Yeah.
I mean, it was constantly drinking them. But so, I couldn't even drink. Like I got one out in the car, and I didn't want to bring it in because, But is that right? No, absolutely not, because I'm hiding it, right?
Yeah.
From you, right? So I like being honest, right? I don't, especially with you being in the position you're in, right? It's funny how you feel like you fail. Yeah, I see you. It's funny how you feel like you fail, and it's an energy drink, right? But it's about honesty. It's not about the energy drink, right? It could be dope, alcohol, but I have not relapsed with alcohol. So that's the that's it. But the energy drink, I don't know what it is. I'm in such a habit of drinking. Yeah, so it just, but I'll eventually, what I need to really focus on is the bacon, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to Bill this morning and I was coughing him while I was at the gym, and he was like, goodness, Jim, what are you doing? I said, I got to quit this bacon. So that's what it is. So I've got to do that too, but that was going to be hard. Nicotine.
Yeah.
But anyway, now that we've got all that out of the way.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
The
You're talking about straw.
No,
Pocket,
no. Bite.
vape,
Yeah, bite day.
lungs.
No.
Put it in your pocket?
Yeah. Money. No. Meat. Meat. No.
He's like to slowly quit it?
No. It's,
Outside of mine, maybe.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You can't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people like David Ray, I think when he quit smoking, he would, what was it he did? Candy?
You carry change.
Change. And also a lot of people carry straws to chew on.
That would be my thing, because it's the hand to mouth thing.
So, what, meat.
Yeah.
Like in a minute. and
Yep.
put it
There
on.
you go. Put it off. Yeah.
One of the big things for me when I quit snuff was the feeling of not having the snuff can.
Yeah.
So I bought a can of snuff, emptied it out, and just carried the can. Carried the can in my pocket, so I still felt the can being there. I wasn't packing like I'd left it. It was that panic of, whoa,
Yeah.
where's my snuff can?
Yep.
But you can also do those pouches that's not got no nicotine in it.
Yeah. Well, I try the pouches. I just can't, like with nicotine even, and I can't. I can't. It gags me. I can't. I can't do it. But now there'll be some people that I seen it happen. A guy was trying to quit dipping, and they would bring cans of Copenhagen and put it on his desk. Why policemen do that to each other, I'll never know. I know exactly what it is. Because, hey, buddy, you're not gonna do better. I'm gonna make sure you fail because I failed, right? I don't want it to look, you know what I mean? And just same with alcohol, there'll be people that kind of try to needle you, and that's out of their own
Yes.
conviction, right? That's out of their, I'm getting tired of him succeeding in his alcohol cessation, you know? And it convicts me, so the alternative route is to try to get him to drinking. And if you think the Lord's not gonna make them pay for that, you know what I mean? Same with vaping, same with putting the Copenhagen on somebody's desk. I just looked, I'm like, why would you do that? The man's trying to quit, you know? Go figure, it's policemen doing it to each other. Anyway, Deborah, the dutiful judge. Lesson 1, my wife and I faced a tricky situation a few weeks before we got married. Her job was exceptionally challenging and she became unwell. With counsel and guidance, we decided it'd be better for her to resign and for us to rely on one income temporarily. And so that goes, there's a lot of people that are doing jobs that are so toxic for them that it ruins their family life. Like when I was working at the prison, even though I was excelling there, I was making good money and I was getting award after award. I think I had like 7 commendations, 6. And that's at the prison. Now that's on top of what I got at the PD as well. So I was doing good there. But I could not, it wasn't for me, you know, and the same with the unit that I just come out of, I couldn't, it wasn't mentally right for me anymore. I couldn't live the life that I want to live, being frustrated every day I go to work. So, you know, so that's what she's talking about. She quit because it was challenging. She was getting unwell. We all know what that's like. Have you ever worked a job you hated so much, Joshua, at the church there, that you get sick when you go to work?
I
No.
get anxiety, like anxious.
Well, no, I mean sick. Like when I would go to the prison, it would ruin my days off. And there's not a CO that I know that didn't hate their days off, just like they hated their days at work, because they knew I got to go back to that place, right? It would be almost better if you were like an inmate and you just stayed. That way you don't have to leave and come back. And a lot of the inmates would say that that's even worse. You have to come back every day. We're here, you know. But anyway, so that's what that's talking about. Is she was just, it was affecting her health and your home life. With counsel and guidance, she decided she'd resign and rely on one income temporarily, rather than for her to return to a toxic work environment. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, she was furiously applying for jobs. Between appointments with our officiant and premarital counselor, she was scheduling phone interviews. With a week to go and the stress mounting, all I could do was pray to ask the Lord to open the door. The answer to prayer that we so desperately wanted didn't arrive before the wedding. Didn't arrive. So sometimes when you pray, if the Lord doesn't answer it immediately, you feel like he's not listening. Or some people are so arrogant that they deny that, well, maybe God's not even there, right? Because he didn't answer the prayer in the time frame in which they thought was appropriate. And sometimes the answer is no. But the answer to the prayer didn't arrive before we left for our honeymoon. She did end up landing the perfect job, but not until the week we got back. The perfect job. What did I think of that? She was praying for a job, but the Lord says, I'm not going to answer that prayer because I got one coming for you.
Yeah.
It ain't in the time that we think. Sometimes you don't get the answer to the prayer that you feel like you want, but maybe the Lord is doing that for a reason, because there's something coming that's even better.
Yeah.
That he knows you need, and he knows they ain't got no patience. Right? But the timing was impeccable, usually is with God. Reflecting on that season now, I see that even when events were overshadowed by quiet anxiety, God was faithfully taking care of her needs. God could have opened the door immediately and a lot of stress would have been alleviated. But I believe he was teaching us something far better. A quiet trust and rest in his goodness. That's the way we began our married life, and it has seen us through. Be still and know that I'm God, right?
Yeah.
When you are worried and stressed, be still and know that I'm God. Sometimes you understand that you don't get that quick answered prayer. Larry, you haven't started talking yet, but be still and know that God's got you one way or another. It could be that it's through the lack of speech that your testimony is powerful, and it is, because every chance I get, I talk about you. So I was talking about to the guys cutting the tree down, you know, and he's looking for a church to go to, and he, like a lot of us, have been to the wrong church. Where if you walk in and you're not dressed the way they are, their nose goes up. If it would rain, they drown, right? That ain't the way we operate. So, you know, I was explaining to him, there's a lot of churches that wouldn't put you in the pulpit to be a deacon, to lead anything, because you can't talk, right?
Yeah.
That's not right. Who's to say that you say that God calls you to be up here? Who is man to tell you you're not? Right? And that's why I told him, I don't care if our church stays little like it is, or if we grow to where we have to have a building and then outgrow that building, you're always going to be in the position that you're in. Nothing's ever going to change unless you change that, right? I don't care if we have 1,000 people, you're going to get up here and you're going to lead the services like you do Sunday morning. It doesn't matter. But he liked that. And he was, a lot of the times, the way I dress, people don't like it in church. And I said, well, you know, come with what you got on. I can't tell if that's which way that's facing, Bradley. Do you care? It looks like it's facing back this way, but I can't. I'm blind. But come with what you've got on, right? I told him, I said, if you want to come into church like you're dressed, come into church like you're dressed. You don't have to wear a suit. I choose to wear a suit because I'm preaching, right? I feel like I need to wear a suit. Now, I'm not wearing anything ritzy, like this is the only thing that didn't come from Goodwill in these shoes, but I've had these shoes for, I don't know how long. Because I had to have a pair of brown shoes, because apparently you're supposed to wear a brown belt and brown shoes, and a black belt and black shoes. I had no idea, I didn't care. Right? Didn't care. But I do have my little suspenders on. But anyway, so, you know, he's looking for a church where he can feel at home. And Robbie is trying to get him here. And the other guy he had with him.
They're nice people.
They're good people. But it's trusting God that we wait on. And just like with this church, we have worked hard. All of us have worked a lot. And sometimes the Lord's like, just be still and I'll take care of it. And I think we planted a lot of seed, and I think one day that he's going to send the rain, right? Now, the seed you plant may not be the seed you see spring up. You might plant a seed, and then the guy goes on down the road, gets saved, and then leads somebody else to the Lord. You had no idea, but the Lord knows. But it's just that rest and trust in his goodness. I realize we have been given precious time, not only to fix our minds upon one another, but also to slow down and rest. If we had gotten resolution any earlier, it would have been easy to become preoccupied. Instead, we felt God's invitation to trust him fully as the provider of all our needs. Now, like with law enforcement, and I reference that because that's all I know, right? So like with law enforcement, the reason cops are so close, some more than others, are because when you trust one another with your life, and it's just you and them versus a crowd of 50, 60, 70 people, you become real tight. When you're in combat with somebody, when you're kicking in doors with somebody, you have to trust them, right? You have to learn that you don't have to look to your right because that's their area to look. You have to trust that they're looking there and that they're going to protect you, right? And that's why, and this is so important, that's what he's saying, through that fear of not having a job, it allowed them to get closer together because they had to trust each other. They had to talk. And he had to reassure and say, you know, no matter what, it'll be all right. Now, a lot of us fell at that. Me, I'm like that. I'm like, just the sky's falling. If one little thing goes wrong, I'm like, God, just give it up. You know what I mean? I mean, I get frustrated with, and there's nothing that frustrates me more than a washing machine. I'm just gonna, well, I don't know what the luck has been for us, but we cannot keep a washing machine. But good news to report, the washing machine, the part that we need, they don't make anymore, so it's completely useless. Yes, it's good news.
Seems like about when we watch TV.
Yeah, well, it's intentionally done that way. That washer's not old. That washer's not old.
Is
The one
it
Lisa-
Frontline?
Yeah.
Yeah, the washer's not old.
Those are bad.
But I'll tell you what they do. They make it like that for a reason. So and they discontinue one little part that renders the whole thing useless. They discontinue its production. Why? Because when it breaks, guess what you
Got
gotta do?
my another one.
You gotta go buy a new one. That's wrong. It's dirty. And I told Mom, I said, I'm just getting a wringer washer.
They don't even make those no more.
But I forgot all the work it comes. She's like, you're gonna have to put it on the porch. And I'm like, why would I put it on the, but I forgot you gotta wash it and then you gotta send it through that little squeezy thing and then it's gotta fall in the water. And then you gotta put it through that roller and then it's gotta fall in the water to rinse. And I mean, let's be honest, it ain't like I'm burning the world down washing clothes. So if I had to add an extra step to washing clothes, well, I don't think I could wash any less than I am now. But I'm just saying that sometimes we have to just trust God. You know what I mean? Even when it's something that sounds silly, you know, over a washing machine. The world isn't, the sky ain't falling, right? It's a washing machine. I mean, you can put your clothes in a bathtub and wash them and hang them outside. It ain't that big of a deal. I mean, it is what it is, but we got to learn to trust. And also we have to learn that the closer we get to God and the more we serve God, the more the devil's going to attack us. And it's going to be little things like that. And he knows with me, if he can needle me, I'd rather you just come up and punch me in the mouth, right? I don't like the little pinpricks every now and again. I don't like passive aggressiveness. I would rather you come up and just say what you got to say. But the devil ain't like that. The devil's like, "Eek." And then he'll leave and he'll come back and he'll like, "Eek." You know, and it's just, he's doing it to torment, right? But I don't know how we got on the washing machine thing, but just trust God and even though sometimes you're like, well, if I trust God and I don't actively find a job, I'm not going to make it. But you also got to rely on what the Lord said. The birds don't have a job. The birds don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feed the birds. If I feed the birds, how much more am I going to take care of you? Because in that lesson in Genesis yesterday, when, you know, we got to the part where he breathed life, you have God's breath in your body. That is your soul. You have God's breath, his words in your body. And that sets us apart. We are special. Right? The birds were spoken into existence. God made us. And also, if you think about it, the little meanings in the Bible where the devil was cursed to crawl up on his belly all the rest of the days, the snake, right? And dust in his mouth. And we were talking, what did God make man and woman out of? Woman out of rib, but dust. So y'all think that's a little funny? The Lord says you're going to eat dust the rest of your life? Right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're made out of. But when has a difficult season prepared you for the next chapter? Larry, I mean, it's obvious. You don't even have to answer. When has a difficult season prepared you for the next chapter? Now, me personally, that whole mess I was going through with multiple things, not just alcohol, prepared me to be where I am now. Now, was it God's will that I was a drunk? No, but God uses things that we do wrong for his will, right? And it's not uncommon if you look in when the Jews were punished by a outside army, that such as Babylonians, when Babylon captured Israel. That's God's people. But he used an external bad thing, right, to punish Israel and to grow them, right? So that's for me, when has a difficult season prepared you for the next chapter?
Mine could be whenever I was using,
Yeah.
when I took it to drugs and where he brought me from to where I am now. You know, even though I relapsed,
Sarah, I can't help it. You just,
Even though I've relapsed,
I know. It just sounds funny.
even though I relapsed still though, I mean, God knows what path, God knows what you're gonna do before you do it. God, I guess God knew that I was gonna go down that road, I don't know, or maybe you go down the road sometimes that God's not intended for you to do, you just didn't do.
But he
on your
uses
own.
it but he can only use it to make you better if you allow it, right?
Mhm.
If you choose to continue to relapse, what lesson is there in that?
I
There's not.
relapsed once.
God will use what's bad for the good. God will use the life that you went through to be able to talk to other people. You know, just like me, there's been a lot of people that listen to me that wouldn't ordinarily listen to me had they not known how bad I was.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I relapsed one time and ever since then, I'm 3 years.
Well, it's hard, but the devil never quits trying to tempt you. That's when you pray. Anybody else? When has a difficult season prepared you for the next chapter?
When I was going through that process with your daddy.
Josh. Yeah. That was a rough one. But, having said that, being Father's Day, he was a good dad.
Yeah.
But the man had his issues
But who-
because he's human,
who don't?
right? Sometimes we get mad at him, right? Want to strangle him if he was here. But he made mistakes. He's human. But it's hard when, now, as a girl and her father is different than the way a son looks at his father, right? So when you as a son looking at the dad, being the things he was going through, it is hard for a man to look at his dad because as a man, you look at your dad as your hero, right? I could say all I want to say about my dad and what he was and what he wasn't, but he was in the Army, I was in the Army. He was a cop, I'm a cop. He was a preacher, I'm a preacher. For somebody to dislike his father, he sure is following in his footsteps, isn't he? Right? He made mistakes, right? We all do. But, you know, it unfortunately cost him his life. But that doesn't make him a bad person. If that makes him a bad person, guess what we all are? We're equal to that. We're no better than him. You know, but as a father, you don't like seeing, or a son, you don't like seeing your father. Somebody that you think is undefeatable, or somebody that you think is, you know, my dad can beat your dad up, or my dad can do this or that. You know what I mean? When you look at somebody in a compromised position, you don't want to see him. You don't want to, as a son, you don't want to see the man that you hold up here to look the way he looks. Right. And that's the reason why I didn't come around a lot. And plus, I mean, to be full disclosed, you know, he got on my nerves.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just the constant, the way he was. Now, this ain't a dad bashing session. He's got mistakes that he made. We've all made mistakes. He was a good father, the best he knew how to be, right? And he always said he didn't know how to be a dad because he didn't have a dad, right? His dad's way of correcting him was to throw bottles at his head if they got in front of the TV, right?
Mhm. Or baseball bats.
Yeah. His stepdad, Amos, you know, busted him in the head with a 2x4. You know, I mean, so he didn't know how to be that. Now, he overdid everything he did, right? Running.
Yeah.
You know, it started out, he couldn't make it from one phone pole to the other. Then the next thing you know, he's in Tazewell.
But next thing you know, he's in Princeton.
Yeah.
At Mama Joe's
And
house.
he overdid it. And that's what caused the issues with the knees. Believe it or not, like if you can't overdo the Bible, but you can. You see what I'm saying? Like, there has to be a time where you got to spend with your family, right? But he overdid everything he did. And sometimes I wish I would do that. And I mean, with some things, you know, because he was, as a cop, you did not want him after you because he didn't give up. He didn't quit. There would be people that come and turn themselves in to like the West Virginia State Police. They're like, look, Detective Murray in Bluefield, Virginia, he won't stop. I just want to turn myself in. I'm tired of running. I can't get away. Right? And that is absolutely true because he's caught me in a few things where I don't even know how,
That
short of
was
him
not-
stopping me, right?
Yes.
But that's just being a good dad. But, it's not so with him preparing you for the next season, maybe eventually you'll find out what that season is that the Lord the Lord didn't put you through that. Dad put you through that.
Have more faith.
Yeah,
I think-
but he did it unintentionally, right? He didn't wake up one day and say, I want to be a debilitated drunk. He didn't wake up and say, I want to drink from the time my eyes open until I pass out, wake up, and do it again. He didn't say, I want to be laying on the floor eating brown beans with mold in them out of a pot, covered in blood, running up the road naked. I mean, he didn't want to do all that. He's just made a mistake, right? So through all that, he was still a good father. And I think it needs to be said. If it weren't for him, I don't think any three of us would be sitting here. Maybe you, maybe Christy, but me and Anna for sure. I don't know. Because Christy's always been different than us as
She's
far as.
always been the better one. She's
Yeah.
good. She's the
She
one that
has.
got addicted to nothing.
Christy's always been the better of the three.
That's an issue.
She's been the better of the three.
I've always told her that she was the better of
She's the better of
I'm
the
not
three.
better, I just didn't choose what I'm trying.
Right.
I don't even know better.
But, and Christy, it's not fair. We don't allow Christy to have a bad day. Have y'all noticed that? If Christy's in a bad mood, everybody's like, hey, wait, you can't do that.
She told me the other day, because
Have y'all noticed that?
yes, I mentioned it to her the other day, she
Yeah.
said, Amy, just because, she says, I have bad days just like everybody else. She says,
Yeah.
I try to stay giddy and I try to stay
Mhm.
happy and bubbly. She says, but it's hard because I have more to worry about now than I did before.
She could be me.
Well, it's not Mother's Day soon, Sarah. You go ahead and get it off your chest.
She could be really me. I can't be. Like, she's more scary than he is.
Well, I think that depends on the situation.
Oh, like, whenever I was younger, I'd rather get in trouble by dad than mom.
Well, you must not remember much about your childhood.
Oh, I do. Dad wasn't really.
Do you remember the water?
Yeah.
You don't remember the water.
Yeah, I remember the water.
Do you?
He still tries to do it.
And then,
So,
you don't remember. And who was it that picked you up and was like, shut
that's
up?
one. Well, she don't nerves.
Yeah.
You don't want to get in trouble by her. I'd rather get in trouble by him because it would be quick and fast. Hers is
Well,
slow and.
Well, exactly. So there's a difference in how your dad punishes you and how your mom punishes you, right? We all know that. So dad, he's either gonna whip you and it's over, or he's gonna say what he's got to say and it's over. Whereas the mom sometimes tends to stretch it out for about a month.
Yeah. Or
You know.
you could be like Daddy come in and give him his belt and told me to kick him.
Yeah.
He hadn't been out of the hospital for
Yeah,
months that long.
Like I said, man, he's just made a lot of mistakes, but we all do, But anyway, how do you respond when God's timing doesn't match expectations? Larry, how do you respond? Or Christy, how do you respond knowing that the Lord hasn't allowed you to talk yet? Yep, that's it. Good answer. Anybody else?
Me, with my situation with Ethan, the way I've been keep on praying, I've been praying for years. I'm just not.
I think your best bet is to keep praying, but also to make sure that your life shows Ethan that there's a difference, right? Because he could be watching, you don't know. God's rescue plan. Now you see Judges 4, 10 through 14, or 4 through 10 and verse 14. So in case you didn't know, I'm not insulting your intelligence. When you see Judges, you see the 4, that's chapter, the little colon, that's verses 4 through 10. That's what the little dash is for. And then you see that little number after the comma, 14. So what that's telling you is read verses 4 through 10, and then read verse 14 by itself. I don't know if you, but I like to be able to teach y'all too. Anyway, God's rescue plan. The setting is a period of upheaval during the era of Judges. God was with Moses during the wilderness journey and with Joshua as Israel came into the land of promise. But Joshua's death left a vacuum of spiritual and military leadership. They had no leader. They had a leader, it was God, but they refused, right? The book of Judges describes Israel's habit of doing what is right in their own eyes. Despite their religious compromises and rampant idolatry, God does not stop responding to the prayers and sending deliverers to rescue them from the hands of the enemy. So the reason I like the book of Judges is because it's each a different judge, it's a different part of history, and it is a different answer to prayer. Each judge is an answer to prayer. Israel falls into a mess. They go back to living the way they shouldn't live. They pray for forgiveness. God hears it. God has mercy and sends them a deliverer, right? Now, it'll tell you if you read it and how many years it took them to fall back off, right back into the mess they were in. And then when it got so bad, they cried out to God again, and God sent them another judge. The judges led Israel. So you have Moses in the history of things that led them out of captivity. Moses did what he was told not to do and didn't make it to the promised land. Joshua took up the mantle, right? Joshua led after Moses. After Joshua died, there was nobody. Enter the judges. Judge after judge, up until what? Their first king. So you have Moses, Joshua, then the judges that led Israel, being Deborah, Samson, Ehud, Gideon, and so on, until Saul. So that's how that worked. So that's when you break it down to be that easy, you're like, oh man, that kind of makes sense. You know, that's basically what from the Exodus all the way up until Samuel. Now, I hope somebody knows, who was the first judge? Just a random question, I don't expect. Starts with an S. It's a book of the Bible.
Samuel?
Simon.
Samuel.
What Bible were you reading?
I don't know. Samuel?
Yes, Samuel was the first judge. No, yes, but that was back before he anointed Saul. Or well, no, mistaken. Samuel was the last judge, and then you had Saul the king, right? Makes more sense.
Yeah.
So he's the last judge, and then here comes Saul, and we see how that worked out.
Yeah.
Not good.
So was the first.
Who was the first?
I don't know. I know, but I just don't want to say without. We'll look into it. So the chapter begins by noting that Israel has been oppressed by the Canaanites for 2 decades. Sisera commands an army of 100 ironclad chariots, makes a fearsome foe. The leader of Israel at this time is a woman, a prophet named Deborah. The Hebrew text said that she sits beneath the palm tree where she settles conflicts. Like other prophets, she is able to share God's perspective on current events and acts as Israel's judge, as Moses had first done. As the Lord's representative and mouthpiece, Deborah commands a man named Barak to assemble the army that shall defeat Sisera's powerful chariots. God shall give the victory. Instead of showing courage, he agrees, but only if she accompanies him and risks her own life. Deborah does go, but she prophesies that the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. Now, do you think the Bible just said that?
No.
Do you think there's a reason why she said that?
Yeah.
What was that reason, do you think? Because the man, right, should lead.
Yeah.
And a lot of people disagree with women preachers, I being one of them. I don't think that a woman should preach. But sometimes I guess they ain't got no choice. Because the men of today are so either self-absorbed or totally unable to preach that a woman has to stand up and lead the church. That is a sad state of affairs, where there ain't enough godly men in the pulpit that a woman has to stand up and fill it. Now, I don't agree with women preachers, but that's why she said what she said. You're a coward. You're a scaredy cat, Barak. But I'll go with you. But when I do, the Lord will deliver them into the hands of a woman. Which she's saying, I'm more man than you are. Right? And just think about that. Since women at the time do not fight in the army, this is an unexpected or even shameful twist. A woman showing courage where a man is not. Thus, together Barak and Deborah gathered the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali and prepared 10,000 men for battle. Deborah reassures them that, now I'm going to skip this word because it is secular and I'm not going to use it. Yahweh, which is Jehovah, shall be at the forefront of any battle, and victory over Sisera will be theirs. That's why I skipped it. We've had that discussion, Yahweh, Jehovah, right? That is a secular term. A lot of people, well, there's no J in Hebrew, but they don't know what they're talking about. And if you don't believe that, you can go to the King James Bible Research Council and watch their video on that. Among why the King James Bible is to preserve the Word of God. And there's a lot of people that think the Bible isn't perfect. If somebody tells you there's no perfect version of the Bible, then how in the world are we supposed to, when the Bible says it's profitable for doctrine and for reproof, how is it profitable for doctrine if you don't know what in it is accurate and what's not? If there's no perfect Word of God, how can you trust anything in it, right? So that's a little side note. But why do you think the text emphasizes Deborah's leadership role as a woman? Because if you are a man of God, or if you are a man and you claim to be a man of God, then you better be a man of God, right? You shouldn't be cowardly in your walk with God, right? If you're like, well, I'll go, but if you go, right? I'll go preach at that church if you go. You know what I mean? A woman shouldn't have to feel obligated to stand up and lead because the men are soft, scared. And we all know, like with Father's Day, it's being a father, aka a man, and that the world is attacking masculinity, right? They want men to be soft and subservient, paint their fingernails and toenails and wear dresses and all that other stuff. You know, they don't want men to be men, and they tell you that if you are a man, that you're wrong. It's toxic, right? Why do you think it emphasizes that? Because you in your life, Larry and Browning and myself and Joshua, we have to be the one to lead. If we don't have the guts to do it, then you should be ashamed of yourself if your wife has to stand up and do it, right? You need to think of where you are in your walk with God if your wife is directing you how to serve God, right? You should be leading your family. If you fail at that, then God's not going to let you fail. God's going to, like, Christy or Brittany or Bethany or, Joshua, whenever you get you a squeeze, you know what I mean? It's going to be, a man shouldn't be so weak and cowardly and squishy and jellyfishy. You know what I mean? Yeah. He should have a backbone. He shouldn't be an invertebrate, right? And you just don't want a woman to have to stand up and do your job. To me, that reeks of femininity, I guess. If you don't have the guts to stand up and lead your family, then, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you have to, as a father, as a dad, sometimes you have to say, look, in the divine order of things, I run this show, right? Now, a marriage is a partnership. It should be. We all felt that. But at the end of the day, when decisions count, it is a man's job to make that decision, and it is a woman's job to support that decision, not to question it, not to say, well, I don't think it should be done that way. Well, you're not the man of the house. So, period. We're going to church. Period. You don't have to go, but the kids are going. Right? You have to be able to lead as a man, so that way a woman doesn't have to stand up and do it. Now, that's to say a woman is inferior. I'm not saying that. I think men are stronger physically, and I think women are stronger emotionally and mentally. And women can catch things that men can't. We talked about that. If you want to know if somebody intends to do you harm, talk to them with your wife there. Not engaged in the conversation, but just if she's a good woman, that is. if she's paying attention, if she even cares, right? She would come up to you and say, something's off with that guy. Don't trust that guy. That guy's got bad intentions. That guy's, he's rocking you to sleep. Don't do nothing with it. Don't be involved with him. He's sneaky. Where men can't always see that. But if you have a woman that cares about you, she's going to guard your throat, right? Like a female wolf. But some women who could care less see it and they're like, man, you know, if that's the case, then you need to fix yourself as a wife. If you don't care how people move around your husband, then you need to fix you've got bad issues, right? If you don't care how they move, if you don't care their intentions around your husband, then you don't. Make sure you turn that off. If you don't care how men move or women move around your husband, then you have to make sure that you pray about that because you don't love your husband like you claim you do, right? If you see people intending to hurt him and you allow it to happen, right? But women are a lot of the times are stronger than men, in my opinion. Mentally. Men, when they come home, you know, look, me and Brownie talk all the time about it. Like when you get older or when you get a squeeze and you come home from work and you put your head in her lap, you go to sleep while you're watching the movie or whatever. That doesn't mean he's bored. It means he feels safe, right? A man needs a place to feel safe. That's what if he ever asks you, hey, come in here with me, or lay with me, or be with me, let me put my head on your lap, and all you do is groan and sigh and act like it's the end of the world, what that man's going to do is quit asking you, right? And you become a hindrance instead of a help, right? When your husband comes up and he wants to lay down beside you, you know, I don't know if you've ever experienced it, and it's no, don't put it out there because I don't want to beat myself. But if y'all have to meet his wife. She's funny, intelligent, too smart for him, and she lets him know that too. I can't comment on that.
Okay, my coverage.
Correct. But I can't comment beyond that. I think you're a beautiful man.
Thanks.
But, good woman, right? Now, women are to be strong like Deborah, but don't get a big head. Like, don't go beyond what the Lord has you to do, like wear the britches in the house, right? But if your husband's a jellyfish, I guess you ain't got no choice. What would cause Brock to hesitate when commanded to assemble an army? There's one simple word, and I've already said it. It's a coward. Plain and simple. When have you struggled to follow through on something that God asks? Well, every day.
Nobody can say they have.
No, can't. But every day I have struggled, right? Just as you know, preaching for me, sometimes I'm just like, you know, and then, like I said, that one day I thought I was going to have, and I was going to close church. I wanted to go to George's. And I wanted to be fed, right? I wanted to rest. And Mom's like, you can't do that. You can't miss. You can't not come. How fair is that? Is that fair to y'all?
No.
That if y'all can choose to come when you decide to come to church, or how often you decide to come to church, but yet if I don't show up the same way, your eyeballs are all over me, right? How is that fair? How's it fair for y'all to message me and say, I don't feel like coming today? What if I message y'all and was like, nah, I don't feel like preaching today? Y'all are like, what? Is that fair? No, it's not. But is it right? It absolutely is, because why? Because that's what God said, period. Right? John, I don't care if you feel like it. I think you've had plenty of years of rest, right? Running for me. So if it ain't going to kill you to preach a few times a week. you know. So what about y'all? Have y'all had that same experience?
Yeah.
That's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sunday mornings are always a battleground. Every Sunday. I mean, I was fighting it this morning. I couldn't find pants. I couldn't find the shirt. Everything was wrinkled. I get salty over wrinkled clothes. And socks are terrible. Socks will make me want to not come to church. How stupid is that? Just being honest. That's why everything should be prepared the night before. No matter if, I come home from work, I should get my clothes ready and make sure that they're pressed and make sure that I'm ready. Right? Because at the end of the day, I've got to be the one that wears them. An unlikely champion? Readers might expect that Deborah will be heralded a victor over Sisera in fulfillment of deliverance through the hands of a woman. But Deborah isn't mentioned in the account of the battle. Sarah, arrogant and eager to face rebel leaders, amasses his force to oppose Barak, taking all of his chariots to Mount Tabor where they are camped. Instead of holding the higher ground, Deborah sends Barak and his 10,000 foot soldiers down the mountainside to attack the ironclad chariots. So what they were doing is they're taking a plastic butter knife to fight somebody with a sword, right? They had ironclad chariots and they were foot soldiers. The description of fighting is short, but the text says that God sent the Canaanite chariots into confusion. Later, Deborah taunts their defeat, swept away in the river. This is similar to the way the Pharaoh's army was lost. God is true to his word and the chariot riders are defeated. Sisera has to climb down from his chariot to flee on foot with danger close behind. He tries to escape the neighboring territory controlled by a clan of Kenites, his allies. Right? Oh, this is a good one. Another woman steps up and handles God's business. Jael. Another woman. Right? Deborah didn't beat that army. Barak most certainly didn't beat that army. God defeated that army. Right? It's plain and simple. Well, the man that caused all the trouble fled. And he thought he got away. But here is proof that you will never outrun God's judgment. Ever. Even if you are surrounded by people that you feel are your allies, God will find you. And a tent spike or a tent peg would be driven through your head into the ground. That's exactly what she did. In the story, Jael, wife to the leader of the family of Kenites, they are Sisera's allies, non-Israelites who Sisera fully expects to shield and hide him from the pursuit. But Judges tells us that Moses' father-in-law was a Kenite. At least some Kenites have been on friendly terms with Israel in the past, and guess whose tent he runs to? One of them. We soon realize that Jael is not the ally she appears to be. She's like, sure, come on in here, lay down. I got you. He's like, watch the door, let me know if they come. She's like, oh yeah, I got you, don't worry about it. Go to sleep, get comfortable. And again, as a man, you got to be a little careful. The wife's mad at you. She's like, I made you dinner if you want to go take a nap. Brittany was like, well, I'll cook you dinner and you go in there and relax and I'll come in there and rub your back. And I'm like, no, I'm not eating that. You eat it first. You eat it, I'll eat it. But until you eat it, I ain't eating it. Right? I mean, that's a joke. She doesn't do that stuff to so few and far between that I feel like if she cooks, somebody's dead. Right? That ain't what I'm saying. I'm just saying you got to be a woman. That's what makes them a little sometimes more dangerous than men. They'll rock you to sleep. That's what inmates used to call it, right? By rocking you to sleep, they would be walking down through a stairwell with you, chatting you up, laughing and talking. Your friends. They're relaxing you, and then when they get you out of camera range, they're stabbing you. They rock you to sleep like a baby. They want you to feel safe. So you let your guard down, right? And that's what he did with Jael. Sisera is glad to have safety and shelter. Jael invites him to enter the tent. She gives him milk to drink, fed him before she wiped him out. That's cold. She's like, here's your glass of milk and some Oreos. You know, I'm sure if they had Oreos at the time. Hey, here's your glass of milk and some Oreos. Here's your pillow. And she probably tucked him in. Probably sang him a lullaby. And said, I'll guard you while you sleep. Until she drove a tent spike through his head. A hammer and 10 pigs. She reaches, Jael does the unexpected. She has no weapons and is clearly not a soldier. She reaches for what tools are at hand, a hammer and tent pegs. While the mighty Sisera slumbers, she drives a spike through his sleeping head and puts an end to his haughty leader, who oppressed Israel. Just as Deborah prophesied, he is overcome by the hands of a woman. So what you see is when she says he will be defeated by a woman through the Lord, she didn't go down there and defeat him. He got away. So you're thinking, or you should have been thinking, well, wait a minute. I thought he was going to be delivered. There she was. He ran right to her tent. And he was delivered into the hands of a woman, just like she prophesied. Right? Just as Deborah prophesied, he's overcome by the hands of a woman. Barak soon arrives, too late to claim a captive. So in your Christian life, if you half-heartedly do it, or you are cowardly in doing it, don't show up when the work's done and be like, man, we did a lot of work, didn't we? Woo! Don't show up when the work's over, right? Because somebody that is of God did the work. Now, I'm not talking about physical labor. I'm just talking about anything. But he shows up, it's too late. God's already handled it. Later in Judges, both Deborah and Barak sing of the Lord's unexpected plan for his deliverance. In Judges chapter 5, that is a song that they are singing. So when you read it, think of it that way. They marvel at Jael's victory, calling her blessed among women. We learn from this song that if Sisera and his army been victorious, they would have taken a woman or two for each man as spoils of war. Instead, it was two women, Deborah and Jael, whom God used to save his people. Why are Jael's actions surprising?
Because she was a woman with
She's
no
a woman.
weapons.
And she didn't have a weapon either.
She wasn't a soldier, right? She didn't have a weapon. But she used what she had. Why would the text emphasize that women overcame Sisera, how do you want to say it? Why do you think the text emphasizes that?
Because he was delivered into the hands of a woman, which was Jael.
Right. Not Deborah, who initially calls through the Lord to gain victory, but he got away, but still yet was delivered in the hands of a woman, right? And it emphasizes that prophecy was fulfilled. What does this show us about God?
Works are unlikely.
Oh, yeah. Somebody that, even if you are running from God's judgment and you surround yourself with people that you think will support you and hide you, you can't hide from God, right? So if you look at that little picture right there, that is a mallet, petrified wood, and it was from the same area. It's the kind of tool that she might have used to drive the tent spikes. Clues point back to God. The biblical text tells us that Deborah is a prophet. We readers are waiting to see her words prove true, since this is the mark of a valid prophecy, which is true, right? But imagine the suspense from her perspective, which we only see in bits and pieces. Deborah was courageous enough to call God's people to the defense of their territory against the superior foe. And when the confidence of Barak wavered, her words remained the same. She was willing to risk her safety to accompany the army, and she gave the word for the attack. Before that day, no one would have predicted some chariots or strong chariots to become useless, or that the arrogant Canaanite commander would die by a tent peg. Who thinks they're going to get killed by a tent peg in the middle of combat? He thought he got away. He thought he was among friends, right? But you can't outrun God. Perhaps you have played a murder mystery game where you've tried to guess the circumstances of a person's death. Would anyone following the clues guess the woman Jael in a tent with a tent peg, which is a clue, right? The game Clue. Jael in the tent with a tent peg. He would never saw that coming. And I think it's funny if you think of it. He never saw that coming, right? Well, he was asleep. He physically didn't see that coming, right? Sometimes we need the unexpected to wake us up to our inability to save ourselves. If Barak has summarily marched the army to a conventional victory, there will be songs written in his honor. Instead, the Song of Deborah, Barak praises God and the people who answered his call. The conclusion of God's mighty work is this: the land had peace 40 years. So, in the time of the judges, they cry out in repentance. God sends them a judge to deliver them. And then after this, they have peace for 40 years. And that wouldn't last, right? Until they messed up again. What feels different about resolving a problem with God's help instead of on our own?
You can't solve a problem on your own.
Mhm.
Right. Makes you feel close, like if God, you're needing a problem resolved, maybe one you've not even voiced out loud, and it's the Lord takes care of it. It just makes you feel like you're special, which we all know we're special in the eyes of God, each one of us. Right? I mean, He knows our name. Where and when are you tempted to credit your own ingenuity or work ethic for success? I think we've talked about that here at the church, right? We just have to make sure we don't try to get bigger than God, right? We have to make sure that we don't say, look what we've done. Look what the Lord has done through us, right? And by the way, that tree, y'all, you don't realize
It looks
How big?
better.
how big of it. I pulled up and I told it was your cousin. And I told him, I said, man, I'd hug you if you'd let me. Nephew, I was like, yeah, I'd hug you if you let me. And I bet this guy's thinking, man, this is awful excited about us cutting a tree down. We've been trying to get it cut down a year. Can't even pay somebody to do it. I mean, and we had to resort to me almost having to get up there.
Dude,
No, I've been dead in the ER or something.
No, you would have been dead.
I watched that guy climbing that tree and saw that stuff in short limbs swinging. And I was like, nope, it would have knocked me out of the tree and I'd been dead. Or if I would have had a rope, it would have hung me. There ain't no way that I could do what they did. The way they tied ropes off, and then he's got one that holds him up in the tree if he falls, and he's got like 76 more that are doing different things. And I'm like, how in the world do you work through that mess? He was like, well, sometimes we get tangled up. I'm like, oh, no big deal, I guess. Sometimes we get tangled up. And that one guy, he was the other guy that he brought with him, which is dating his niece. So, okay, I just want to make sure. It's hard for me to remember. But he cut the top of this limb down. He was up in the tree, and his nephew had the rope, and I was just trying to stay out of his way. And I thought, he cut that limb down, and here it comes. And it just swung exactly where they wanted it to go. And it come down, and it hit the guy up there, and I thought, oh, no, he's going to knock him out of the tree. But he knew it was coming. Didn't bother him at all. And then when they lowered the limb down, he's at the very top, probably 50 foot up in the air. And with nothing above him, just a little nub where he cut that tree down. I was like, man, he's moving with the wind. And I was excited about it. And, but it's not us, it's God, right? God sent this family. And in the short amount of time they've been here, tree's gone, right? I mean, God takes care of what he intends to take care of when he intends to take care of it. Where do you recognize the faith and courage of others who are following God into risky situations? How do y'all feel about watching people of the Lord that go into risky situations? You're like, man, how strong in their faith they must be, right? Like all the apostles who got killed in horrific ways, all except one, right? And they even tried to boil him alive. Didn't work. But just think of that. And I know that some of the pastors from the college, we've been talking about it, and here soon we're going to, it's obviously just like talking about it, but we want to get our passports, and we're going to Canada to preach. What do you think's going to happen to us when we get there?
We're gonna get arrested.
We're getting arrested.
yeah.
Yep.
But can
We are getting
how's that
arrested,
gonna work?
100%. You cannot preach the gospel on the street.
Us going up there and bailing him
You
out in
cannot.
Camden.
But it specifically says the
They'll
gospel,
put us in jail.
right? You can't even pray in public. So when we go up there and we're preaching, we're getting arrested. Now, I would imagine Canadian prisons they can't be that tough, so I think I'll be all right.
Yeah, you say that. You get-
But,
Here's Nick Search good.
yeah, like that. We get serious. But I think at that point, we realize fully what we're gonna be getting into, right? It ain't so much that we want to go up there to preach so we can get arrested, so we can say, look at us. It's to say, you try to cut God's word off. If you think that's gonna scare people into keeping their mouth shut, you're wrong. Especially from an idiot from West Virginia, right? And I get up there and I'm preaching, I get arrested, and they're not gonna let me out on bail. I can only imagine that hopefully US go, yeah, I'll want y'all outside like in DC with signs that says free Murray, you know, outside the embassy, you know what I mean? A religious prisoner. But it's not so that we can go up there and say, look what we've done. It's so we can reiterate to them that the stronger or the harder that you squeeze the neck of somebody trying to preach the gospel to shut them up, the louder it's going to get, right? The more people try to stamp out Christianity, the faster it has spread. And that's the Lord's work. So, you know, might be a day where I call y'all and it's a weird number, just answer it. Like I am in jail in Canada. I don't even know if they use euro or what. But if they do, just know that it's about 75 cents per, right? So your dollar is worth 75 of their cents. I don't know what money
They
they use.
use loonies and toonies. That's legit.
No, it's not.
Yes, the loonie and the toonie is the $1 and $2 coin in Canada.
Well, that makes sense. Looney Tunes, right? Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in the midst of fear, right? Now, I hate to say, to keep repeating it, but there are all things that when you are, courage isn't defined. Courage is defined by being scared and doing it anyway. Like what we do. Me, not so much. I mean, I get scared, I might get a paper cut. But, you know, for the guys that are actually doing police work, you know, I get it. Or fire, right? Stand in front of a burning house and knowing they got to go inside of that house. Telling y'all, if y'all ain't seen it, scares you for them, but they like it. It ain't, I can't, it ain't meant for me. I tried to put their gear on one time and I'm just not man enough, I guess. I put their gear on, I was like, phew. And they used to have to climb the stairs to the manor in that stuff. And they set their alarms off every 30 minutes up there.
Mhm.
So, ain't no way. Now, he was like, get up in the engine. I'm like, I can't get up here. I can't pull myself up. And I didn't even have the tank on. So, but anyway, courage, even being scared, I don't think there's any of them that can say they've not been scared in a house fire at some point, or on a call that we've been on, where when you're surrounded by 100 people and they're fighting and the gunshots are going off in the crowd, and it's you and your partner and that's it. Yeah, you should be scared. Keeps you alive, right? Key text: Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth. She judged Israel at that time. She dwelt under the palm tree of Deborah, between Ramah and Bethel and Mount Ephraim, and the children of Israel came up for judgment. So y'all know what next week is. Go ahead and read it, prepare for it. But also look up Mount Ephraim and look up Bethel and how many times each is mentioned in the Bible. Ephraim is also where Ehud goes, the other judge. But Bethel, look up how many times Bethel was used in the Bible. It's a lot. All right? You want to close with some prayer, Larry?
Lord, I want to thank you every time. I want to send them thing. I want to do thing. Amen.
Amen. All right, we'll have a short few minute break here, and then we'll get started with the service.
And to answer your question about who the first judge is, it's Othniel.
Oh, yeah.
I looked it up.